at our rules that we have. Okay, so I loaded up the West Virginia story. And just to keep it simple, I'm not going to edit the headlines or anything. I'm just going to move stuff around. Let's talk about the photographs that you have. I'm going to give you 2 horizontal and 2 vertical photographs. And so you can pick and choose whichever ones that you need. You only need to choose 2 photos that go into each of your layouts. If you look at your exercises that I have, I've divided it up into 4 different categories. A big vertical, small horizontal. Big horizontal, small vertical. 2 verticals and 2 horizontals. And this is how your book also flows together as well. So when you choose them, just choose one or the other and pick the appropriate headline that goes with it. You don't have to use all 4. Let's talk about cropping the photographs. You're kind of at a disadvantage, and here's why for these examples. All of the examples I get, I pull them from an already existing news source. It's just easier to do that way. If you were working with a photographer, photographers are trained to give you more area than you need, right? If there's a subject in the middle, they're going to take a photograph and give you more stuff around the edges. That way, you can go back in and crop it down to the exact size that you want. Well, these are already pre-cropped, so it's going to be difficult kind of cropping some more, but we can still do it with what we have here. For instance, this photograph right here. If I needed to get some more space at the top or the bottom, I could easily pull that down and pull this one up, and the photograph still works. I'm encroaching a little bit more on the body. I could even pull into the side a little bit, and I can make it a little bit smaller. So that one's okay to crop down. This one, however, not so much. If I start cropping this guy from the bottom, you can see I'm cutting him off right there at the waist. It looks a little bit awkward, right? So this one's going to be a little bit difficult to crop horizontally. I could bring this one in if necessary, if I needed some different space, wider or thinner space. Same way for this one. I can pull this one in just a little bit. Starts to get a little awkward because I can't see where their hands are terminating, where their legs are. Definitely if I pull this one in, I'm starting to crop off this guy's face, and I don't want to do that. So when working with these, try to get them to fit as best as possible. What about this one? How much could I crop this one? What could I get away with? Yeah. I can go maybe this thin. I can go maybe up to his collar. You know, it looks a little bit awkward, but I can still work a little bit with that. I definitely don't want to crop off major portions of his head or anything that's important off to the side. Question? Oh, okay. So that's kind of a word of warning about cropping these photographs. In a later unit, we're going to cover just everything about photography that you need to know when working with this. For now, I'm just going to keep it simple. So let's work with these. I'm going to follow along the examples in your book, so I'm going to be on page 62 and 63. And this one talks about having a big vertical and a small horizontal. So I'm just going to grab a vertical photograph and a horizontal photograph. I've got my cut line right here as well. You can see the examples in there. They give you several really, really good, simple layouts that you can work with. The easiest one is kind of that first one that they have. Put your text into 2 columns and put your photographs into 2 columns side by side. So if I did something that looked like this, obviously my text needs to be 2 columns. One picture needs to be at the top. One picture needs to be below. Hey, what's wrong with these 2 photographs right now? They're about the same size. There's no dominant one. The reason why the big vertical tends to work out really well, watch what happens when I scale this down to fill up 2 columns. Automatically it becomes the less dominant one that I can work with. And from here I can put my cut line underneath there, move it up if necessary. Hey, I can crop that if I need a little bit more room. Put a cut line down there. And of course my headline either needs to fill up the whole side, or I can do like the example and let it be a raw wrap. Pull that up, readjust accordingly to that. Pretty cool? Easy, easy, easy stuff that it works with. The other example that they give you is a shared cut line. So instead of having this 2 different cut lines, maybe I can make it a little bit smaller. In this case, it looks like they're making it fill up a half column, so I'll even go a little bit smaller with that. And then my cut line fills up the rest of the half on this side. A little bit awkward. We'd have to adjust that cut line to fit, but that also is a very, very viable solution. Also, make sure your pictures rest on your baseline that we have. So that one works as well. What the problem with it is, I've got this nice big open area. If I had a shorter article, I can do something like that. And you can see my article is now squared off. If I had a longer article, what could I do? See how long this one is. Yeah, how can I flow all of this text? Make it go across 4 columns. What layout style is that called? L. Make it look like an L layout. Let's see if it'll work. There we go. That works out really, really well too. So if I need to expand on it, that one is something that I can definitely do. Here's another question. How much distance needs to be between my cut line and other body copy? Y'all remember? Six picas, which is one line that we have here. 6 picas. One of these 12-point line spaces. So when you set up your baseline grid, give yourself one line, you'd be good to go with that. Okay, so that's a big vertical and a small horizontal. And you can see the different little layouts that they have on 62 and 63. If necessary, if you wanted to lead off with one, this one's kind of my favorite. Let's say this was a really cool picture. Let's go back to normal. I could put the picture on this side, cut line on this side too, and then let the less dominant one be up here at the top. I'm confusing myself about what's going where. Let the dominant one be up here, fill up this particular area. Not paying attention to my grid. In this case, let's let it go 2 columns. That one fits 2. Pull that down to 2 columns. Remember, you can crop these text to fit the area necessary. So something like that works. Obviously, it needs my cut line. Missing my cut line. Let's pull this one up there. If I needed more area, I could crop this photograph, which is hard to do, and I can pull this text up, give myself a little bit more room. I'm mainly concerned that you get the example jumping everywhere. Cool? Okay. Let's go on to 64 and 65. In this case, you got the big horizontal photograph and a small vertical. So let's use these other examples. Big horizontal, small vertical. Probably the default thing to do, if I'm taking up 5 columns, yeah, we'll do 5 columns. Got that going across there. For the big horizontal, most photographs you're ever going to work with are going to be horizontal. That's just the way photographers tend to see the world. And so a lot of them work out like that. Plus, it's so easy to fill in area because horizontal photographs don't take up a lot of vertical space. Let's let that go 5 columns. 5 columns. So that's going to take up that particular area. Throw in my cut line. Underneath it, I've got this open area that I can work with. So my small vertical can fill in this particular text. We'll let that flow around it. It can take up 1 column, 2 columns, however many columns that it needs, as long as it's smaller and vertical. Let's make that even smaller. One column. Will it work? Will it work? Hey, worked out really, really well. Need more 6 picas of space right there, 1 line of space. There's the one that works out. Horizontal photograph, small vertical. Dominant, non-dominant. My main photograph is near my headline. My text is wrapping nicely around and it's squared off at the bottom. I would probably want to bring down my, there we go, my cut line and bring down my photograph to fill in that particular area as well. Make sure everything is nice and squared off. Cool? How big should my headline be?
24.
I've got 5 columns.
54 to 100?
54 to 100. Yeah, I think it should be a bigger size. Of course, if I made it bigger, it's going to push stuff down to multiple lines, so I need to shorten the number of words in my headline. Probably need to bring down that G's encroaching on everything there. Pretty cool? Okay, so y'all see big horizontal, small vertical. Flip over to the next one, 66 and 67. Here's going to be the tricky one. 2 vertical photographs are going to pose a space problem. The reason why is because vertical photographs, by their nature, are already very, very tall. So if I stack 2 tall photographs on top of each other, it's going to take up a lot of vertical real estate. And how tall can I get away with? How tall can columns be? 12 inches. So if I've got 2 photographs plus cut lines, depending on the height of the cut line that you need it to be, let's see how tall this text is going to run into. Let's drag it down, 9, 10, it's pushing 12 inches already. See how it's 11.66? So that's a really, really tall one. It would be better for you to see if you can place these somewhere else. What's another problem I have with my photographs? Same size. One's not dominant. So need to make one smaller anyway. If I did make it smaller, let this small one take up 1 column. That solves my dominance issue. Which one's dominant? And now I can flow my text around, make it an L layout. Of course, that needs to be, we'll make it 3 columns from there. Make it an L layout and everybody's happy. Cool? Too small if they're stacked on top of each other. A better layout would probably be a side-by-side. In this case, put your smaller one right there so it leads into there and then flows down into the smaller one as well. That's one of your examples that you can pull from. Final setup, 2 horizontal photographs. One needs to be big, one needs to be small. What I love doing, if I ever had to lay out a newspaper, is to lead in with the big photograph. So I would let my dominant photo do something like this. Take up full 5 columns. You would have to crop it accordingly. Of course, this one's just an awkward photo to begin with. Always have a cut line. Every photo needs a cut line. And I would adjust my cut line length. Then I would lead in with my headline. Headline, take up that space. I've got plenty of space down here now to throw in my other horizontal layout. Perhaps this one right here. I can make it 2 columns, I can make it 3 columns, whatever I need to fill up the space. And then that one, of course, needs its own cut line. Fit under there. So that is a good layout. And it works really, really well. Cool. I can have headline up top, lead in. Is that a good solution? What's wrong with that one? You have to jump to do it. So never put your photograph in front of your body copy. So that would not be a viable solution. Other solutions that they have are a little bit more risky. I could easily move this to a middle column. So now I've got a very centered type. What kind of layout is that? U-shaped layout from there. All right. I want to give you all plenty of time to be able to work on these. So all you're doing is you're adding on to the work area, your